Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about Square Enix. I'm going to hand it off to Cameron to talk about Ubisoft, and we're going to close out the video. I'm going to close out the video with a bit of Nintendo talk. So, Square Enix, they had a really weird 30-minute pre recorded showcase, and I honestly expected there to be a lot more. But they started off with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is a nice start. It's based in South America this time. There's more environments to be used to your advantage, and honestly, it just looks incredible. Um, they showed some gameplay of it, and you could definitely tell it's more brutal than previous installments. It's the biggest hub area ever in Tomb Raider, and of course, there's going to be more tombs. They added some underwater segments, which I'm a bit iffy about, just because it's underwater in an action game like this, and there's supposed to be a bit of combat in it, which I'm kind of hesitant towards. Um, but it's Tomb Raider. They say it's the most defining Tomb Raider yet, that defines Lara and who she is. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of interested. I need to play the second, the sequel to the 2013 Tomb Raider, I think. So the second one, I forget what it's called, Rise of the Tomb Raider, I think. But it looks interesting and fun. Then they went into Final Fantasy 14 online, and they talked about Stormblood, their newest DLC. I've never really gotten into any Final Fantasy game, um, so I'm not too sure about what it adds or the game itself really. But then they announced something that like kind of piqued my interest about it a little bit. They're doing a Final Fantasy 14 online cross Monster Hunter world um, expansion. I think it's an expansion. It could just be an update for everyone, but I'm not sure. I think it's awesome. It's an incredible idea, and it's a great way to draw new users, and it is coming this summer. After that, they went into the awesome adventures of Captain Spirit. And this game, it's a new game in the Life is Strange universe. I honestly didn't enjoy Life is Strange too much, just because honestly the writing wasn't great. It didn't set things up super well, in my opinion. Um, and it was just like bad timing. But I'm hopeful for this one. It's free on June 26th. I don't think it's episodic, so it could all be free. Um, and the trailers look fun. Like the trailers look like it's a fun new adventure, which I'm excited for. Just Life is Strange was such a disappointment to me. I never played Before the Storm, but Life is Strange, the original game, wasn't great in my opinion. Um, then they went into Dragon Quest 11 or 12, Dragon Quest 12, I think. Um, I have no experience with the franchise. I've seen some gameplay. I heard some people saying it sounded pretty similar to other games, pretty generic. So I guess that's something you could go off of. Um, then they went into Babylon's Fall, which looked kind of interesting. It was a trailer that just showed a timeline and some pre-rendered combat, so there's not much info about it. It's gonna probably release in 2019, and we're probably gonna see it again next year at E3. So most likely look for more info there. Then they announced again that Nier Automata is coming to Xbox One with all DLC. They mentioned this the day previous in the Xbox conference, which we'll be covering tomorrow in a video. Um, it's coming with all the DLC, so it's cool. Then they touched on Octopath Traveler, which is a Switch game that's coming out. It's a turn-based RPG with like 8 different characters. They're different, basically classes of traditional role-playing game characters. So like mage, warrior, knight, thief, things like that. And then I actually really like the art style of Octopath Traveler. It reminded me a lot of like the Paper Mario games, which I just love the style for, except a bit more like hand drawn and less colorful, which I liked. Then they went into Just Cause 4, which was pretty expected. Uh, they said there's going to be more destruction in it and more physics engines. Um, they're adding new weather effects, so tornadoes, lightning, sandstorms, and blizzards can all roll through the game at any point, basically. There's new vehicles and driving mechanics. I saw that they were driving a, uh, not a forklift, can't remember what it's called, but it was a construction vehicle. There was like a wrecking ball you could use. A bunch of stuff like that looks cool. And then they're also overhauling the grappling hook, which is pretty big. Whenever I played Just Cause 3 a bit, just because it was a PlayStation Plus game at one point, and the grappling hook was kind of tricky. Like, it wasn't exactly, like, didn't feel super good to use. It was just kind of there. So, hopefully that the grappling hook is better for new users and just can be more accessible to everyone. They're also adding more booster uh, grapples and like balloon grapples so you can make things float up in the air. Then they went into a live action scene that switched from live that switched to animated. It was just a guy who didn't talk, and he walked into an alley, and these guys threatened him, and then he just kicked their butts. And then they revealed it to be called The Quiet Man, which I think is a really stupid title for a game. They cut to just the word silence at one point, which I think would have been a better title, but The Quiet Man's just seems kind of stupid to me. And then to close out their conference, they went into Kingdom Hearts 3, which was very expected. However, what I didn't expect was them to use nearly the exact same trailer as what they showed the day before in the Xbox conference. There was about one thing added in this trailer that's showing right now, which was Remy from Ratatouille and what looked like a cooking minigame. That's it. Nothing new from the company who makes it its own conference. So nothing new. I could honestly scream about this trailer for about 20 minutes, but I'm not going to. I'm I'm shocked that they showed that Terra got, or not Terra. Terra's been Norded for a while now. I'm surprised they showed Aqua got Norded. If you don't know what that means, don't read into it too much because it's too much to like. Unless you're really into the series, don't think about it too much. Or if you want to get in the series, go ahead and read up on it a lot. But basically, the bad guy took over her body, and she's one of the most beloved characters. That's it, basically. And then gummy ships are back, which is pretty expected at this point. They showed Frozen. They showed more members of Organization 13, and that was really it. Nothing new from the trailer. Um, Everything looks really good still. Not much more to add. See, Traverse Town is back again, which we already knew. Um, at this point, I'm just waiting to see some Big Hero 6 stuff, which is the one world that's been announced that we haven't seen yet. And also, I'm just going to say this game looks incredible. It almost looks as good as the animated Disney movies it comes from. Like in the Tangled scenes, you can see the individual strands of Rapunzel's hair and it just looks incredible and I can't wait to for this game to come out just because I'm so excited. Um, yeah, that's how Square Enix ended their conference with the Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm really shocked they didn't go into like the Final Fantasy VII remake that we haven't heard about in 2 years, I think. But yeah, we haven't heard about that in a while, and I'm surprised they didn't go deeper into that. But yeah, I'm gonna hand it over to Cam, who's gonna talk about Ubisoft. Okay, so it turns out Cameron can't do the Ubisoft video, so I'm gonna cover. Um, just first off, I just want to say this: Ubisoft had a few mic issues. One of them was after the people from the studios producing Beyond Good and Evil 2 came out and left. They were like you could hear them celebrating, which was really nice. I'm not gonna lie, I found that really like fun. Um, and then later on, with the Division 2 guy, I believe, or the Mario Rabbids guy, I'm not sure exactly. Um, you could hear someone apologizing to him because evidently his entrance changed or something. But other than that, it was a good conference. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it. Um, so they opened with Just Dance 2019, which is something that I kind of expected. It's something they do every year. It's just another iteration of an annual game, basically. It was a good performance, though. I'm not gonna lie. They brought out a live marching band, which is super nice to see. Like more live music incorporated into into E3, just because I think that's something that needs to happen more often. And then after that, it was really nothing. They went into Beyond Good and Evil 2, which looks incredible from the trailer. We didn't see real gameplay. I don't think like any gameplay that we normally see. It's supposed to be a prequel, which kind of left me with a few questions. For one reason in particular, so they showed the crew getting caught by Jade, who's the protagonist of the original Beyond Good and Evil, which is kind of confusing to me because if it's supposed to be a prequel, then why is the protagonist of the first game the villain of the prequel? It just kind of confused me. I'm just assuming something happens to her that she turns into a good character by the start of the original game, that being Beyond Good and Evil 1. And then they also announced they're crowdsourcing art through Joseph Gordon-Levitt's company, uh, Go Record or Press Record. Um, it was cool that they brought Joseph Gordon-Levitt out, but I honestly think that this is kind of a daring move by them because this could be done by specialists who have done work in the industry before, which I think is a way smarter option to go with, especially just because it's such a big game people have been waiting for a long time. I understand it's good. It's a good way to get fans involved who are artists and could possibly get stuff like get their career going through this, but I honestly think it's kind of a risk because you're cutting out jobs that are normally done by these people who work harder and are better at it typically than a lot of people. I just think it's kind of weird that they're doing that. And then they talked about Rainbow Six Siege, which is an interesting game. I haven't played much of it. I watched a lot of it. Um, it's super intense, and I enjoy watching it. I couldn't play it. They announced their uh, documentary called Another Mindset. So it follows 8 community members of Siege. Some of them are like esports players, some of them are streamers, some of them are coaches in the game. And that's releasing at their Paris event in August. They announced 3 events, one in Brazil, one in Paris, and then one in um, Montreal, where their studio's based. That's like the invitational or big tournament that they do every year. Then they announced Trials Arising, which is the new Trials game, which is motorcycle physics game basically. So the creative director of Red Lynx, who makes this game, came out on a motorcycle, and I honestly thought he was Jack Patillo from Rooster Teeth, an achievement hunter who's a huge fan of Trials, so I thought it might be him announcing the game, but it wasn't. It was the creative director. I just thought that was cool. Then he did a little bit on stage where he fell through the podium, which I thought was really funny. And basically was like, yeah, Trials is the game where you're going to fall a lot, but you got to get back up. Which I thought was like, oh, that's a little nice thing just for life in general. So the game, honestly, looks way more extreme than previous games, with a bigger focus on bailing as a part of the game, which I thought was kind of funny. Um, and they're doing something really smart where they're talking to people who are huge fans. They're known as the Trials Elite for advice on levels and design. One of them was the maker of Trials University YouTube channel where he goes over difficult like tricks from Trials, which I thought was really cool. It's not like what they're doing with Beyond Good and Evil 2, where they're putting people in charge of stuff. It's just they're like saying, "Hey, how could this work out, and how could we make this better?" And I think that's a great way to go. Um, then they went into the Division 2, which we saw previously at Xbox. Um, the Xbox conference. Cameron will be talking about that tomorrow. Uh, this time it's based in Washington, D.C. Uh, they said that your actions in the game have a clear impact on civilians, which I think is a nice twist. A lot of people are doing it this year, though. I know in Dying Light 2 that was a big thing, but hopefully it works out well and it's actually something that affects the city around you. Then they went into the four specializations, which are sharpshooter, demolitionist, survival, and they actually haven't revealed the fourth specialist yet. Um, I'm curious what it could be. I'm assuming some sort of like just pretty basic assault class because you have two snipers there basically. Sharpshooter has an explosive crossbow. Demolitionist has a grenade launcher, and Survivalist has the 50 cal sniper. So I'm assuming some sort of automatic weapon, maybe a LMG or something like that. Then they also announced that they're gonna have raids of 8 people in the game, so 8 player raids, which is cool. And they also announced they're doing 3 episodic DLC through their first year, and that'll all be free, which I think is really smart. A lot of companies know that people are sick of paying for DLC at this point. They're just making it free. In this case, it could be through like loot boxes and stuff and buying currency that they're going to try and make extra money on it, but you don't. That's not necessary to play like the entire game. The DLC, depending on how it is, it could be necessary to complete the story. Um, and then they went into Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, Donkey Kong Adventure, which I talked about a bit. I talk about a bit later in the Nintendo um, portion of this video. They brought out Grant Kirkhope in Critical Hits to play music from Donkey Kong. Grant Kirkhope is the composer uh, for a lot of Ubisoft and Mario and Donkey Kong stuff, evidently. I don't know much about him. I've heard the name a lot. He's a really big composer in the video game industry. Um, so I actually love this. They Ubisoft did 2 live music acts, which I really enjoy. I love live music, and they had a trailer in the background, which is really nice. So it wasn't just the music being played like they had at the Bethesda conference, where it was just Andrew WK playing. They had gameplay, not gameplay, just a trailer going on in the background. Actually, there was a little bit of gameplay, but not much. Um, and they did have like really classic like Donkey Kong music. They had like Donkey Kong Country, and then like for a minute you hear the DK rap, which I thought was really cool. Just a little shout out to all their fans, basically. And then they went into Skull and Bones, which is a new pirate game. So it's it's basically a Sea of Thieves competitor, but it's more realistic, less cartoony than Sea of Thieves, which I'll enjoy more so than Sea of Thieves, just because Sea of Thieves, I haven't gotten my hands on it too much, but it just feels kind of cartoony to me. Like I know that's the point, but I'm not a huge fan of games like that are super cartoony. Um, so it basically takes mechanics from Assassin's Creed, especially 4 with the which is Black Flag, so Caribbean one, um, and it's that type of ship combat, but that's the whole game. There's different scenarios like weather that you'll like have that'll make you plan for doing um, different raids, not raids, different like attacks and looting, um, different assaults that you have to plan for, and they'll also make you change your plans too if it's not what you expect. And then after that, they went into Transference, which is a game from Elijah Wood's company, or where a company he works at called I forget what it's called, um, but he's the creative director there. So they're partnering with Ubisoft to make the game, and it looked like a horror based like digital a horror game based on digital world affecting human psyche. That's really the best way I can put it. We haven't seen too much of it, but it looks pretty horrifying, honestly. After that, they went into Starlink, Battle for Atlas. So it's a space combat game that seems like it's going to be similar to Star Fox. I don't know if it'll be like quite that like linear through the levels. Hopefully, it's a bit more like explore the space around you and fight. Um, but I'm not sure. But Star Fox will actually be available in the Nintendo Switch version of this game, which I think is incredible. It's a great way to say, hey, if you have an Xbox and a Switch or a PS4 and a Switch, you should get this game on Switch because you'll get this exclusive character. I think that's a great way to get more people into the game on Switch. Um, that's really all they had for that. Then they talked about For Honor DLC called Marching Fire. I honestly thought this game was dead. I really did. I didn't think they'd add anything onto it. I haven't heard about it since February, basically. So it's 4 months without 4 months without any real big news coming for the game, which I think is kind of odd if you're gonna have that. Um, then they said the PC version would be free until June 18th through Uplay. So that's Ubisoft's like online service. I don't think it's not like a service, but it's like it. I guess it is a service where they run through like microtransactions and stuff. And then they're also adding a breach mode, which is a siege on a castle basically. And the DLC just in general is based in Asia. Um, then they talked about the Crew 2 a little bit, basically just a reminder that there's an open beta soon. That's all they really said for that. Then they went into Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So it's based in ancient Greece. There's land and sea battles, which I think is incredible. You can play as a male or female, so that's the first in the series. You can play as, and you choose this. You can choose Alexios or Cassandra, and uh, you play as them throughout the entire game. No switching characters or anything, and you're kind of from a famous bloodline, I guess. Leonidas of the 300 Spartans that held off the Persians. You're his grandkid or something. I'm not sure exactly. Um, and you get to wield his spear, which I think is awesome. And there's actually new dialogue options as well, so you can like lie and tell the truth to different people, and that'll affect the game itself. But Assassin's Creed Odyssey looks really good. I played Assassin's Creed Origins, which was fun. The combat was way better than previous games. It was more like user based and like, hey, you have to do stuff for this. It can't be on the game and waiting. Basically, you have to make smart decisions more so. Um, but yeah, that's how Ubisoft ended their conference, and I really enjoyed it. It was a good conference. It was the perfect length, hour 30, awesome time. But yeah, it was a good conference. So Nintendo started. They do the direct, so it's pre-recorded and everything. But they opened with a new mech game that's not Gundam, but it's still mech fighting. So how is it not cool? That's basically the question. And I'm not. It the gameplay looks really fun. They're probably gonna add heads-up display. Just they don't have it for video purposes, so it's clean screen and you can see everything better. Um, but it's called Demon Ex Machina or Damon Ex Machina. I'm not sure about the pronunciation. I think it's Damon though. Um, I'm not sure about that completely. Then they went to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 DLC called Thorna the Golden Country, which I don't have any experience with the game. I played as Shulk in Smash Bros. For a bit there, but that's it. The gameplay looks fun. It it looks entertaining. If you're a fan of it, have a blast with it. I'm not a huge fan. I don't know anything about it really at all. So have a blast with it if you enjoy that stuff. Then they went into Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. So there were a few big things that this got announced a few weeks ago. But so it's not a mainline Pokemon game, but you catch Pokemon with like you do in Pokemon Go, but instead of flicking, I'm sure you could flick the screen, but if you have it connected to a TV, you throw it. You like throw the the Joy-Con like you'd be flicking your screen, so you're throwing a ball with the Joy-Con. That's cool. It's a cool peripheral aspect to it that I think could be really good. Hopefully, it is. Um, it's gonna have multiplayer, so I guess if you both throw the Pokeball at the same time, you get like a bonus for it or something. That's the only thing I could think that they'd be doing with that. Then they announced you can transfer Pokemon from Pokemon Go into the game, which is really cool. I think it's a great way to bring Pokemon Go players to the Switch, which I think is something Nintendo's been trying to do for a while. They did it with Sun and Moon on the 3DS, and that was really successful. So this could help incorporate uh, Nintendo better than just having their name on it. Bring back some customers and get them re-involved in the company by buying products. And then they announced the Pokeball Plus peripheral, which can be used instead of a Joy-Con, so you can like fake throw it basically and uh, catch Pokemon using that, which I think is a really smart peripheral. Also, it comes with Mew. So if you buy this peripheral, I think it's like a $30 peripheral or something, you get a Mew with it. And also, you can transfer Pokemon from the game into that Pokeball. The one thing I'm not sure about is if you could transfer Pokemon from the game itself back to Pokemon Go. That's the only thing that I'm super not sure about. But they didn't announce a mainline Pokemon game either, which is kind of disappointing. Um, but it's whatever. Then they went into Super Mario Party, and the big thing about this one, there's no car. It's like the older Mario Party games, so that's incredible. I love those games. I played them a lot with friends, so that's exciting to see that the older style ones are back. They're adding new mini games as well as keeping some old mini games there. And they had an interesting little tidbit where they connected two switches together for a minigame to play it. Um, so it was a tank minigame. I'll have it on screen, but it was a tank minigame, and you could change the landscape essentially um, to make the game better for everyone, which I think is really cool. Um, that's basically it. Um, I think it's supposed to come out this year. Then they went into Fire Emblem Three Houses, which is a new Fire Emblem game. It looks great, but I don't have much experience in the series. I played the Game Boy Advance one on my friend's Game Boy one time. That's the only experience I have with it. But it looks good. If you're a fan, go nuts. Um, Then they announced Fortnite is coming to the Switch, which isn't surprising, and it was released the day of the conference, so it's out now. If you have a Switch, you can download Fortnite on it, which I think is really smart. Um, then they announced Overcooked 2, which I think it was announced, but they announced it for the Switch. Overcooked 2, which will have online play as well as couch co-op still. Um, and then they went into a game called Killer Queen Black, which I don't know much about. I think it's a port. Technically, it's a multiplayer arcade game. It looks really hectic, so if you're a fan of that hectic game, go for it. Um, then they talked a little bit about Hollow Knight, which is a platformer that looks incredible. I believe it's been out on PC for a while, and it dropped day of the conference with all the DLC, so it's available in the Nintendo eShop. Then they touched on a lot of games. They touched on Starlink, Arena of Valor, Minecraft, Sushi Striker, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, Donkey Kong Adventure, which is DLC, um, Pixark, Just Dance 2019, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, or Fighters, I'm not sure, Splatoon 2 DLC, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Crash the Insane Trilogy, Ninjala, Carcassonne, I think that's how it's pronounced. Um, FIFA 18-19, Ark Survival Evolved, Wasteland 2, Paladins, Fallout Shelter, which Bethesda announced a few days before, Dark Souls Remastered, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, and Wolfenstein 2 and Mario Tennis Aces. Um, the rest of the time in the conference was purely spent on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is the new Super Smash Bros. Game, which looked really incredible. They announced that literally every fighter from every iteration of Super Smash Bros. Is going to be in this game. So, classic characters that we haven't seen in a long time, like Young Link or Pichu or Snake, are going to be back in Super Smash Bros., which is something a lot of people have been dying for recently. Like, the only way you could play with those characters was on um, Brawl or Melee, and even then it was kind of and the best way to play it was Project M, which was technically illegal and got shut down. Um, but they So yeah, all those fighters will be back, and they're all getting updates. Whether it be costumes or moves, they're all getting updates. Um, they're releasing a compatible GameCube controller, which is something the hardcore players always need. We all Well, it's more for everyone at this point. Basically, we all know Smash Bros. Doesn't feel completely right unless you're playing it with a GameCube controller. Um, yeah. Then they said that nearly all amiibo were compatible. So if you have an amiibo of someone that's in the game, any amiibo from separate games of them will be compatible. I believe that's how they put it together. Then they announced two new fighters. The first one being Daisy. She's an Echo fighter, so that's basically a fighter that's nearly a copy of another fighter. So like Robin is a Echo fighter of Marth. They have the same move sets. It's just they act a little bit differently with uh how they interact with other characters basically. So Daisy is an Echo fighter of Peach, and then they announced Ridley, who is someone a lot of people have wanted for a long time. He is from the Metroid series. I believe he was the main enemy in just the original Metroid or Super Metroid. I'm not sure exactly. Um, but he's someone a lot of people have wanted for a long time. He's obviously been scaled down a bit because he's a huge, giant pterodactyl dinosaur alien thing. Um, but yeah, he looks awesome. Looks incredible. I think this really sparked all back when they released Brawl, and they had Ridley as an enemy that you'd be fighting through the subspace emissary occasionally, but it is what it is. I was surprised we didn't get more character announcements. I really wanted Waluigi available at launch, but he's not. He could be DLC. Then they announced the release date of the game, December 7th, 2018, which is huge. It's really soon. And then that was the press conference. So that's gonna end this video. Um, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe if you can. And we'll see you guys next time.